let's get to this. I got a text this morning from a buddy. He's like, should I continue to contribute to the Democrats if Trump suspends the Constitution? And he was being a little flippant, but Donald Trump apparently in this conversation with Jonathan Swain from Axios, they have some TV show called I don't know what, and I don't care. And in this clip, Swain is clearly goading him on. So there's a part of this that is, classic Trump bravado, like, oh, you're making a challenge to me? Yes, I'll meet it. But look, they've been talking about this in right-wing circles for a while. Lindsey Graham apparently came out and said, oh, thank God somebody has finally looked at this. Here is Donald Trump being asked whether they want to go after birthright citizenship, which is ensconced in our Constitution under the 14th Amendment. But there's actually statutory basis that precedes the 14th Amendment, at least temporarily in this country. Here is that exchange.
On immigration, some legal scholars believe you can get rid of birthright citizenship without changing the Constitution.
With an executive order.
Exactly.
Right.
Have you thought about that?
Yes.
Tell me more.
It was always told to me that you needed a constitutional amendment.
Right.
Guess
14th
what?
Amendment.
You don't.
You don't.
Number one, you don't need that. Number two,
I mean, that's in dispute.
You could definitely
that's very much in dispute.
Well, you can definitely do it with an act of Congress, but now they're saying I can do it just with an executive order. Now, how ridiculous. We're the only country in the world where a person comes in, has a baby, and the baby is essentially a citizen of the United States for 85 years with all of those benefits. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And it has to end.
Have you talked about that with council?
Yeah, I have.
So where in the process?
It's in the process. It'll happen.
2
with
weeks.
an executive order. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah,
that's
it's
a very
exactly what I'm
interesting.
talking about.
I didn't think anybody knew that but me. I thought I was the only one. Jonathan,
I've got
I'm
a good
impressed.
guess. Good
I'm
guess.
Impressed.
Now, he sort of grins, and I think part of it, he grins because we can't see what Jonathan Swain is doing when he says, like, are you doing that? And he's like, yeah, no, it's in the works. That's why I think he grins, because I think Swain looks at him like, I know you're lying. And Trump knows that Swain knows that he's lying, and so he sort of smiles. But there's no doubt that they like the idea of this being put out there now. And just a couple of things that you should know, because the president is, I don't want to say a pathological liar, because I think that he has a reason every time he lies, but he's just a liar. Like I said, the birthright citizenship is ensconced in the 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States, subject to jurisdiction in the United States, are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. So if you are born in the United States, you are a citizen of the United States and the state in which you reside. You can go into the weeds in terms of the implications of jurisdiction, but the 14th Amendment also contains an exemption for people who are not within the United States. So you hear a lot like, oh, this was only supposed to serve to make sure that slaves who were brought to the United States became citizens, and their descendants became citizens. They wanted to make sure that, and that's all it's limited to. But if that's all it's limited to, then Congress would not have seen fit to add these other exemptions. When Congress passes a law, or in this case, a constitutional amendment, and they specifically cite exemptions, it is more evidence that anybody not listed in those exemptions are considered falling under the auspices of the statute or the amendment. So the two exemptions are for Native Americans, because they aren't subject to the same jurisdiction as non-Native Americans because of our relationship with these tribes, and children of diplomatic representatives. So if you're a diplomat and you come over here with your, your spouse and you have a child, that child is not an American citizen. They're actually a citizen of your home country. And diplomats also get away with parking tickets in New York City. They get away. They have diplomatic immunity. So the 14th Amendment was quite clear about that. There was also a law that was passed, the Civil Rights Act in 1866, that preceded the 14th Amendment. This was right after the Civil War. This was all part of Reconstruction. And in the course of the debates there, it was quite clear that they meant not just for freed slaves or for slaves, for ancestors of, or I should say descendants of slaves, but for anybody born in the United States. There's a couple of law cases that supported that back in the 1800s as well. One which allowed for the citizenship of a child of a Chinese immigrant, and Chinese people were not even allowed to naturalize at that time. So it is well entrenched in our law and in our Constitution. So he's talking out of his ass. But in addition to that, guess what? We're not the only country that has this. I'm going to read a list of other countries that have this exact same feature, as if it made a difference, because this is in our Constitution. You never hear about people saying, like, other countries don't have 3 houses, have 3 branches of government. What are we doing? Antigua, Argentina, Barbados, Belize, Bolivia, Brazil. I'm still in the B's. Canada, Chad, Chile, Costa Rica, Cuba, Dominica, Ecuador, El Salvador, Fiji, Grenada, Guatemala, Guyana, Honduras, Jamaica, Lesotho, Mexico, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Panama, Paraguay, Peru, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Lucia, St. Vincent,
Yes.
the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, Tuvula. I didn't even know there was a Tuvula. United States, of course, Uruguay, and, can you believe it, Venezuela.
Well, you know what the real response to that list is going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Venezuela.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. So we're not the only country that does that, as if that makes a difference. We're going to take...